Welcome to Deadlands Dime Novels, The Adventures of Young and Holt, Issue 37, The Coin's Other Side. I'm your narrator, Ernest Wick, intrepid reporter for the Tombstone Epitaph. In this issue, well, I suppose you've been a mite bit curious as to what is happening with Porter Holt. Well, no more need to wait, though I reckon there will be questions when we get to the end of this issue. No sense going on about it. It's time to see where he's at. So we open up, and if we're using the whole camera idea of a cinematic presentation to the beginning of all this, we open up and we're on a wide shot of this town. We can see this town across this flat plain. Maybe there's a stream or a lake nearby, but for sure one thing we can see is a singular railroad track that pushes through the town, and the town is surrounding this track. And the camera slowly begins to push in, and we come to the sign outside the town, and it says Grand Island, Nebraska, population 1,200. And the camera lingers there just long enough so we can read underneath that little population sign. We see a little notation that's written or painted on there, and it says, "The last safe bastion before Denver. Seek your fortune here." The camera then goes up and continues to push in the distance around the edges of the town. We can tell that it's beginning of harvest time. We're now definitely into fall. Summer has faded away. Once we get a good wide view, the camera comes down and settles along the railroad track leading into town, and it kind of goes along as if a train would, and it gets to the spot where the primary train station is, and there's people there, and there is a train on the tracks. It's just sitting there right now, and we can tell that there's cargo cars and there's passenger cars, and there's people coming on and off the train and milling about and doing their business. And we can see some cargo being unloaded, some cattle being brought onto the train. The camera slowly goes through and around, and it comes down a very busy central street. The street is fairly crowded. There's people milling about everywhere. A few wagons here and there. A few people on horses. Some horses tied up at hitching posts. People are carrying boxes, doing all of those errands of the day. The camera begins to slow down and goes up above the people, and we come to a place we can see the sign above this well-built saloon. It's called the Cartwright Saloon. The camera comes directly towards the doors and goes up and over, and you have that whole effect like where the doors open up into the saloon, and we immediately go from a bright sky into not a dim or a dark saloon, but there's definitely a reduction of light in here. But there's quite a lot of activity going on. It's noisy in here. There's music. There's people talking. There's people laughing. It's actually pretty filled for this time of the day. It's slightly mid-afternoon. You can hear the clinking of glasses, and in the distance you can hear the shuffling of playing cards. The camera begins to kind of go through the various people in the crowd, and you can see people kind of from all different socioeconomic levels. You have your grungy farm workers, you've got your rich, well-heeled business folks, you've got your soiled doves, you've got your cowhands. They're all mixing and milling in here. But as it kind of meanders through the various tables, it goes past the bar, and we catch a glimpse of someone who we vaguely recognize. He looks vaguely familiar. We're not really sure who it is, but the camera doesn't linger there very long before it goes over to the tables where games are being played, and it passes by one table and passes by another, and then it comes up over the shoulder of one person, and you can tell he has a kind of a flat-brimmed, one of those flat-brimmed hats, so there's no There's no indentations or dips or curves or anything in the hat. It's a wide, flat, black-brimmed hat. And we're looking over his shoulder right across to the other side of the table. And there's a number of people at this table. And the camera looks over the shoulder, and we can see there's a hand of cards being held. There's a gentleman sitting at the other side of the table. And the head slowly tilts up as the last card is dealt. He picks it up off the table and puts it into his hand. And his head tilts up, and it's Porter's face. So the camera is now staring directly across at Porter. And Porter's staring back at this individual. And we have a number of people here at the table. We have two cowhands, who one are sitting on opposite sides of each other. We also have a soiled dove who looks like, not that she's not as soiled, but she looks like a better dressed soiled dove as far as that goes. It's not clear if she actually works here at the Cartwright or not. Also sitting here, who looks slightly out of place, is a businessman who's very well dressed, and he has a nice suit coat on, not too much dust. He's wearing a bowler hat similar to you, Porter, although it's probably in a little bit better shape. And he's a very finely trimmed mustache. And then the other person whose shoulder this camera is resting on, he's got this flat-brimmed black hat, and he has an amazing mustache. It's actually the kind where it's really twirled and curled up on the ends, and it's finely waxed. And you're all sitting here at the table playing a little poker. Brent, I will let you choose, with the exception of the black-brimmed hat gentleman I just described. You can choose whoever you'd like to play for the moment here.
Part of me thought soiled dove for a minute, but I'm going to go with the bowler hat, nice suit.
Or you can switch between two of the people if you want. You could play two of them if you really want. If you just can't decide.
This is your chance to make fun of Porter. Go for it.
I usually make fun of Porter, though.
That's also true. His name is Newton Howard.
I'm assuming this has come out at the table at some point.
This has indeed come out at the table. Newton Howard is his name. The two cowhands, their names are Shem Sachi and Warren Ellis. And the soiled dove, her name is Melanie Mezcal. The gentleman that's sitting directly across from you, Porter, and is kind of the reason why you're playing cards, his name is Claude Chirac. Uh-huh. And you and Claude, you met actually in Minneapolis when you were coming through there after you had left Deadwood. And the two of you got to talking about a variety of things here and there. You had played some cards before and had some good enjoyable times, and just general chit-chat the two of you would have about things. But when you got to Grand Island, this was sometime after you had disembarked from the train, and the two of you had kind of ran into each other, and you began talking once again. And the reason why you're sitting here playing cards with him right now, as opposed to taking care of any other business, is because he mentioned, you mentioned, the name Samuel Reddington to him. It came up in conversation somehow. Claude's eyebrows peaked noticeably when you mentioned that, and he, as the two of you began to talk, you realized that he knows Mr. Reddington. And you talked just a little bit about him, and you essentially failed your spirit role, in a sense, to maintain some sort of composure, and your eagerness to pry information out of Claude drove Claude to pull back all of a sudden, and he felt that if this was something you really want to know, Porter, if you seem very interested in knowing what I know about Mr. Reddington, I would be happy to share that information if you can beat me in cards. And the two of you have been back and forth since Minneapolis. So as far as skill levels go, it feels like you're almost on par with each other. So neither one of you has been able to gain any sort of considerable advantage as far as who is better. So Claude, he said, yes, play me some cards, and whoever wins, best 3 out of 5 hands. This doesn't mean that we have to win the table. It just means that your hand has to beat mine. The money that we will exchange hands and that I will take from you during this time, that's immaterial to what it is you want to know. But should you win 3 hands, I will tell you as much as I can about, much as I know about Mr. Reddington. And should I win, well, then we can talk about certain things. So the other 3 people who came in at the table, well, let me ask you, how did Newton get in on this game, Brent?
Newton has a lot of OCD to him. He has to keep himself constantly doing something, or it drives him crazy. So being in a bar like this with so much chaos, he can sit down and play cards and have a little bit of order while he passes the time. So this is a way of him keeping himself sane.
Excellent. You learned Melanie has expressed a little bit of interest in both Porter and Newton, but she doesn't appear that she has someone who's actually on duty. It's almost like her behavior towards both of you has more to do with habitual behavior in regards to always being a prostitute of some sort. She behaves in a certain way, but then almost like she checked herself and realized, oh yeah, that's right. I'm actually just here to win some money for her own reasons, which she hasn't fully admitted yet. Both Shem and Warren, who do know each other, they are here, and they're basically off duty. They have been driving cattle from down south and are here in Grand Island as the cattle is being processed and whatnot, and so they've got a little bit of spending cash, and they're hoping to make a little bit more spending cash. Claude has attempted to flirt a few times with Melanie, who has quickly shut him down, but now that he is focused on trying to beat Porter, then this is now where all of his attention is. So let me ask you, Porter, how many hands do you want to have played up to this point of the 5?
Well, let's have played 4 of the 5 already. It's the last hand.
4 of the 5.
It's the big.
This is the last.
The big hand here.
Okay, so you've each have won 2.
Yes.
Mr. Newton, again, I must compliment you on the way in which you hold your cards. It seems to be, when we look at Mademoiselle Melanie there, she has a nice flourished arc with her cards. And these 2 salt-of-the-earth men here, they just seem to hold them both in jumbled messes. Well, Porter and myself, we seem to have a bit of proper spacing here and there, but also in the same sort of arch that Mademoiselle Melanie has. But you hold them straight across. Why is that, good sir? I have to ask you. It's very different. I have not seen such things before.
Such chaotic natures. This is more organized, more efficient, easier to read. Everything's presented in a nice, neat manner.
Yes. Cards do represent, in many ways, they represent the forces of chaos, don't they? And man's attempt to tame them. Here we sit with these cards in our hands, and each one of them are a random assortment of things, and we're trying to place them together in some sort of structured way in which to come out on top of our fellow human beings here around the table.
And yet, aren't they designed in perfection? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on.
Yes, but if you cannot arrange them that way on your hand, then you are truly dealing with chaos, are you not? Don't you agree, Mr. Holt?
I think you're looking at cards a little too deeply, Mr. Chirac.
Perhaps. Momo, I get a little lonely at times, and I think too much sometimes. On the train from Minneapolis, for example, there were many long stretches of nothing to do. Good gods, we were going across Iowa and there was nothing there.
It does help pass the time quite well, especially in those dead plains of nothingness.
Without such spaces to keep large cities apart, we would have chaos everywhere.
Yeah, you might have chaos, Melanie says, but you get to meet a lot of interesting people that way, don't you think?
Some of the best people I've met have been out in the middle of nowhere.
You know, I'd have to agree with you on that one there. I've certainly met some interesting individuals in the middle of nowhere. I think sometimes that isolation can get to people, if you know what I mean. And they develop strange habits. You know, like holding their cards in a straight line. And she sends a wink over to Newton's direction.
Straight things are more satisfying, are they not?
Well, straight, with a slight hook, it doesn't matter either way. I like a little variety in my life.
Porter just sort of buries his face in his cards.
Yeah, the neither one of the cowhands is saying much. But Melanie, she leans over and she goes, "Your observations aside, Mr. Chirac, I do have to say one thing I find fascinating is the look upon everybody's faces here. In regards to the cards they hold in their hand, these two gentlemen are lovely two cowhands here. They're just barely looking up over their cards. Porter, he's been a bit of a mystery this whole time. Sometimes I think I might have figured out your tale, but then I realized, no, I was wrong. You, Claude, I have a hard time focusing on your face only because I can't seem to take my eyes off that mustache. It's impeccable, sir. Wow, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then, but you, Newton, well, what can I say? Your facial expressions have been all over the place. And I have to say, of everyone here, you, sir, seem to have the best poker face, in the sense that I can't figure you out.
Well, thank you, madam.
No, I can't figure you out at all. Well, I suppose we should probably finish this hand, huh? Looks like,
Do they know about our little side bet? Me and Shrock's side bet?
You know what? I would say that Claude has probably not kept his mouth shut about it, in the sense that he's made comments to the effect of, "That's one for me. Oh, and that's one for you."
Okay.
And you know, Melanie has asked, and he probably said, "Oh, it's just something between Mr. Holt and I." But it's been no reason for her to be mistrustful of what's happening. But if you want to offer something else up, you're more than welcome to.
No, mine would be the same. It would just be something around lines of a side bet between me and Claude.
Gotcha. Okay, so we should probably deal out some actual cards here, right? So let's see who.
All right, so how are we doing it this time?
Since this is like the last hand, let's actually do it as we would be if we were to play a poker hand. So I know you're probably totally cheating.
Absolutely.
So let's take advantage of roll 20 here. So you might as well go ahead and make your gambling roll. So oh my goodness, so you got a 15, so that's a raise. So
that's actually a 17.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, right. You play a little bit, and it very quickly within this last hand, Warren, he folds. He's out like right away. Shem, he decides to stay in it. Melanie decides to stay in it, and of course, Claude, who just can't quite seem to stop talking, he also decides to stay with it as well. And he's throwing in more money.
I can't believe you brought your own chips. Do you play cards often, Mr. Newton?
Newton fidgets with his chips at the table, stacking, restacking, organizing, making sure there's an even number of them. There's one odd out, so he will call and then immediately start restacking his chips. Only when Absolutely. Well, not. Yeah. Uh, when I can.
I haven't seen a design quite like that. Where did you say you were from again, Newton?
Well, the North.
That's right. Yeah, the north. Yeah, it's just an interesting design. I like it. I like it. It's
It is a Celtic dustweave pattern imported, I believe, a few years ago. The artist's name is Ernest. No, not Ernest. I'm sorry. That was not Ernest. Not Ernest at all. What was his name?
I don't know. I'm waiting for you to tell me.
He reaches in his pocket and pulls out a notebook that is like pristine. Starts flipping through the pages very carefully, very determined, one at a time. Gets to the page. Here it is. Christine Guillermo.
Ooh, Celtic Guillermo. It sounds. Both of those are so exotic. I like the way you say that. You think the words Guillermo and Celtic are exotic? Mademoiselle, allow me to speak French to you for 5 minutes, and I will show you what true exoticism actually is. And you will be amazed at cunning linguistics of the French language.
Boy, does Porter sigh in the middle of that.
So are you saying that they're from Europe, then, Mr. Hunt?
I believe the Spanish artist was copying a Celtic original design.
Ah, I see.
The design is, yes, but the artist is from Spain.
Did you travel there to get them? Is that where how you came upon them, or did you get them in a city here in the United States, or in the Confederate States, or in any of the various nations which used to belong to these United States?
I did pick them up in the States, yes, ma'am. Or, yes, madam.
Either one is fine. I'm sorry, Porter. Were we interrupting your eagerness to win this hand?
No. It was not you, ma'am. It was my friend across the table here with his exquisite mustache.
He grabs it and kind of twirls it a little bit more. Yes. Porter, I'd be more than happy to show you some French. Perhaps I can take back some of the winnings that you took from me, as we can call it even. I will give you some lessons. Show you a few words here and there that truly will help to impress the lady folk, should that be what you desire to do.
I think I'm doing quite fine on my own, thank you.
Says you, that's true. Should we see who is the winner here, huh?
Let's see who came out on top, yes.
So, yeah, Newton calls, so I believe you have to reveal yours first there, good sir?
Yes. You start with the found work, a good solid foundation, and then you bring it to a peak.
So one pair with an ace, and then that's the best you've got? Is that what I'm seeing?
So fate would declare.
I see. Monsieur Howard, I have to say, I believe that you have beaten me as well. You actually have beaten me in this one. I merely, good sir, have but a king.
Just a king?
King high, that's it. I tried to bluff, but Mr. Howard, he called my bluff, and unfortunately, this is all I've got.
That's a little bit of a pity.
Indeed.
When things are going my way, they just tend to go my way. That's a straight.
Well, you definitely have me beat, so I guess that makes 3 for you then. Is that right?
It does.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you gentlemen keep going back and forth with this 1 for you, 2 for you, 3 for you, 1 for you things. And you clearly are playing your own games here as well, but of course the game that we all have to focus on is the game that's being played here. And for that lovely, and her eyes kind of widen, for that lovely stack of coins and bills in the middle.
And chips.
Oh yes, Mr. Howard's chips as well. And while you're all go ahead and playing your own game, I'm playing my game, the game that matters. And as you will see here, gentlemen, when it comes to things that matter, I always like to come out on top. Full house, tens over queens. Ladies for this lady, thank you very much. And her hands go out, and you realize this is the first time you've seen her hands. Her nails actually are done quite well. They're very well manicured. And she slowly scoops things up, and as she's scooping them over, she holds up a pair of Newton's chips. Now, Mr. Howard, with these being purchased here in the States, but the design coming from the North, I almost feel bad about taking this from you. Would you like to trade this in for cash, or shall I go ahead and just keep these?
Yes. Crisp bills okay with you?
Oh, crisp or crumpled, it all spins the same for me.
I've never seen bills that immaculate.
Her face she loses composure as you lay these things out. And then she looks at them, and then she looks at you, and as Porter says what he says, and she says, "Yes, did you iron these?"
Yes.
These look like they have been well pressed by an immigrant launderer. So finely done.
I handle all my own ironing.
Was there no end to your amazing abilities and things about you, Mr. Howard? Perhaps we should go talk ourselves.
Why, madam, I would be delighted.
Excellent. Mr. Porter, Mr. Holt, and you, Mr. Chirac, well, me and Mr. Howard, we're going to leave you to your own personal games that you're playing with each other. Gentlemen, good luck with your cows or whatever it is that you do.
Yes. Gentlemen, thank you for helping me structure my day.
Anytime.
Of course, yes. The both Shem and Warren, they get up, tip their hats, and then just kind of grumble and fade away into the crowd, as does Melanie and Newton at this time. So everyone leaves. Porter and Claude kind of leans back in his chair a little bit, and takes the last swig of his bourbon that he's got. So you have won 3 out of 5. Well done, congratulations, and all of that.
It was never in doubt.
That is always what the winner says. Yes. So tell me, what is it then that you want to know about Mr. Eddington that I may be able to tell you? And I may not. I can only say what I know.
Well, how about what you know?
All right. I will regale with you my bits and pieces of information of my dealings with him, and then we shall determine what will happen after that. Now, I did say I know the man, but I have to admit I only know him just a wee bit. I have done business with him.
Before he gets into it, Porter's going to pull out a notebook himself. The one he's been carrying with him since the Giants thing. And he's going to break it out, and he's going to start writing.
I have done business with him, man. I did there's a business with him in Minneapolis. And Porter, make me a notice roll.
Okay. Oh, I'm on fire.
Ooh, you are on fire. This statement that he provides appears to be... There's a little bit of twitching in his face that your gambler instincts have told you is there's probably some truth in what he said, but also there is a little bit of a lie in there. You're not sure exactly where it is. Maybe it's in the phrasing, or maybe one of the components of what he just said is that.
So, when I catch it, I'm going to close the book sharply, enough to just get him to stop his rambling a little bit. Like, I did win our deal, right?
Well, but of course, that's what we agreed to, yeah, and you have won, but I'm not even done, and you've shut your book.
I would prefer you didn't omit things so, at least so overtly. We have played several hands together. I've seen how you work.
Okay, I admit you have caught me in a wee bit of a lie. Yes, I did do a business with him in Minneapolis. The business that I conducted with him, I may have done more than once. Dealing with him and his obsession with the new science and his research. I've helped him acquire certain parts and pieces for some of the things that he'd done. So perhaps maybe not knowing him a wee bit is a bit of a misstatement of mine. But everything else is true. But I have to say, I have not seen him for some time. And you may make me a notice roll on this as well.
I got a 4.
Got a 4. He does appear to be telling the truth in that regard, as far as you can tell.
I let out another sigh.
What? It has been some time. What can I say?
Are you a type that always backs out of stakes that you've lost fair and square?
Monsieur Holt, there is no backing out that's here. You caught me in my initial fib. I have corrected and made amends to you, and now I have told you nothing but truth. If there is an agreement here that we have, and you have won it fair and square, as best as a gambler can win such things fairly and squarely, now it is upon you to trust. I cannot pull the wool over your eyes, so I will tell you what I know.
All right, continue your story.
Thank you. Of course, as I'm sure you are aware, he is indeed interested in the new science. Quite obsessed about it, actually. I know that the last time that I did deal with him, he had some business that he had needed to attend to in Deadwood, which is where, judging from our earlier conversation before we started this game, I'm assuming that is where you cross paths with this man?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, yes. Yes, what business he had in Deadwood, that I do not know. And he holds up both hands. And please, no more sighing, no more book closing. I do not know exactly what he was doing there. I'm not privy to that. I'm assuming it had something to do with an experiment of his of some sorts. Because I helped him with something that he needed before he was going to Deadwood. The last thing I know about him in relation to... Well, let me ask you this, Porter, before I go into this last bit. Did you ever tell Claude at any point in here where you were headed to?
Yes. I don't see why not. I don't know he's going there. I have no reason to keep it secret.
Mm-hmm.
If we had met on the Iron Dragon, I may have kept it quiet so no one overhearing would have heard. It just had
all right,
paranoia. But I have no reason to hide it because I'm not wanted anywhere. So, and in fact, I don't even think Samuel knows my name. So,
he probably does not. I believe he does not. Now, I can say that the place you are headed to, Denver, that Reddington has family there.
Is that so?
Yes. Make me another notice roll.
I am on fire.
Whew, look at you.
That's a 10.
That's a 10. You can tell that from the way in which Claude spoke about Reddington having family there, that it is likely he's not lying to you, but he may be having a broader definition of family than what you might be assuming, or than what one might assume. So, was that some of the preliminary things that I know about Mr. Reddington? And because I'm beginning to have a bit of a respect for you, Mr. Holt, and for your ability to spot my tells and to clearly beat me at cards when it counts, I will give you just a few more bits and nibbles of information for you. We are here, of course, in Grand Island, Nebraska, he rolls his eyes, lovely town of a bunch of clearly well-meaning people of the dirt. But there's another town not too far from here that I know that Mr. Reddington has gone to often. It's the town of Jehawk Flats, not far from here. And he goes there to get a lot of his ghost rock. I don't know who he gets it from, but he goes and acquires his ghost rock from there.
Porter scribbles frantically.
And make me another notice roll with that.
Come on, Porter, don't fail me now. He failed me now. Let's do a Benny. Because this is really important to Porter, and he doesn't want to miss this.
This is going to be an opposed roll.
All right, I will roll again here. That's better. Got a 4.
I got a 4. You don't perceive it to be a lie, but what he says just kind of...
Sounds odd.
It doesn't that it sounds odd, but something about it doesn't sound right. Something doesn't quite make sense. Yes, so I don't know what his name is, who he deals with, then honestly, the last thing I know, going back to Denver, in Denver, he lives, he has a permanent room of residence, what would you call it, I'm not sure. It's at the Julian Hotel in Denver itself, and that is where our boy, he stays. He lives when he's there, of course. I don't know how often he is there, but that's when he is there, that is where he lives.
Okay, so Porter finishes scribbling up those last little details there. Anything else you'd like to share?
He leans forward a little bit. So tell me, though, Monsieur Holt, the game is over. I have said what I have said. We have played the cards we have played. We have spent all this time together since Minneapolis. What is your business with Mr. Reddington? What do you want from him?
So Porter, when he asks that, he closes his book, sets it down, pulls out his deck of cards. Mr. Sirach, Claude, me and Reddington have a little history. However, much like you, I'm a little protective of it, and I prefer that this not get around, this little information exchange. So, I have a deal for you.
Oh, a deal. The gambler in you comes back out, and you have appealed to the gambler in me.
It does. So, he spreads the cards out between him, just face down, and he says, it'll be simple, no hands, no betting. You draw the higher card, I'll tell you what you want to know. I draw the higher card, we'll leave it at that.
A true game of chance. I like this. Did you shuffle the cards before you did this?
Absolutely, I was shuffling it in my hand.
Okay.
And in the open, I wasn't hiding it. I actually wasn't even doing any tricks that he may have been able to spot. Well, I wasn't doing any tricks, so... Would you like to choose a card?
Oh, how can I resist what you've presented in front of me here? This is, I do want to know, but, yes, I will choose that one. Do you have them laid out, just like splayed out, like in a nice little curve, or are they splayed, or is it like 4 rows of 13?
No, it's just that, this spread out in that nice curve.
Gotcha. So Claude, his hand comes out and it goes over it hovers over the middle of the deck, and then in a very just gentle and smooth manner, his hand just begins to kind of arc back and forth across the deck, and you can see in his eyes, Porter, he seems to really be concentrating. His eyes are darting back and forth a little bit here and there as his hand is waving across. He stops, his hand goes down, and he pulls out his card, and he flips it over. The 6 of hearts. Not the best card, but it could be better than yours.
Porter, he just runs a finger along the cards, places a finger down on one single one, drags it out, and just sort of twirls it out. And it's the King of Hearts, because he used trinkets to produce a specific playing card.
Nice. Ooh, do I get to make a notice roll to see if I do have you do that, right?
Absolutely, but it's at -2 because of card sharp.
-2 makes it a 3. Ooh. I'm trying to decide if I want to re-roll that. He's not a wild card, but I could still spend a chip of mine to re-roll it if I wanted to. But he won't. Let me ask you, the card that you produced, that King of Hearts that you produced, is it the King of Hearts that Jasmine gave you?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Absolutely.
All right. Porter, make me a notice roll.
Man, Porter's getting used to that today.
Yeah, you are. As you produce the King of Hearts and you show it to him, you look at Claude's face and you notice the most imperceptible of twitches in his eyes, in the sense that they widened just a touch, as in amazement and or recognition, and then he just quickly regained control. It was faster than, most people would not have noticed this at all. So he leans back. I drew the 6. It's not, like I said, not the best of cards. So I guess your business with Monsieur Reddington will remain a mystery to me.
A mystery and a secret.
Oh, yes, you see. Of course, a secret. So you're still... I'm sorry, maybe perhaps I misunderstood the deal. I thought that you would not tell me, but now you're going to tell me, but I am sworn to secrecy. Is that right?
No, I'm not going to tell you, and you're not going to tell anyone about the questions I asked.
Ah, I see. All right. That is fair. Well, it will remain a mystery unsolved to me, I guess, at least for this time. Perhaps should our paths cross back and forth again, maybe we will learn then, maybe not. Monsieur Holt, and he stands and gathers up his things. He looks at you. It has been truly a pleasure. I wish you the best of luck in whatever your business is, and the rest of your time here in this... He gives a dismissive gesture to the exterior. This town, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. I hope that we do get to meet again someday. And he extends his hand to you.
All right, I'll shake it. Absolutely. Hopefully next time we'll have a better game of cards.
As he's shaking your hand, his grip on you tightens slightly after you say those words, and he leans into you, and in a very whispered way, his tone changes and it becomes very dark, and he says, "Yes, perhaps I will. And might I recommend to you, Mr. Holt, is leave Samuel and leave his organization alone unless you want to incur their wrath. And I think that's something that you would not want to do."
Hold on, Porter's gonna make a guts check here. to see how much he shows. Oh, never mind. Porter is on a roll tonight. He's in his element. He doesn't even flinch. In fact, his eyes get a little harder after it.
Claude continues and he says, "And if you happen to run across your old friend, and by old I mean old, you let him know the same. Mr. Reddington, he does not forget." And then he lets go and he turns and disappears into the crowd. But you're able to keep enough of an eye on him to see that he has stepped out of the Cartwright and into the street.
And then Porter slumps down into his chair. How the fuck did Joshua do this?
This is the first time we've ever heard Porter cuss. Not sure what to make of that. Like I said, you probably have some questions, and if memory serves, most of them should be answered in our next issue, second verse. And you may consider that a clue of sorts. The part of Porter Holt is played by Brad Smith. Newton Howard is played by Brent Rich, and your intrepid marshal is played by Chris Hussey. Deadlands and Savage Worlds are the property of Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Learn more at their website, peginc.com. Thanks also to Fear the Boot. Support their Patreon at patreon.com/feartheboot. Intro and exit music by Beelzebub Jones. Some sound effects by Plate Mail Games. Hear more at platemailgames.com. Contact information for the cast as well as music links can be found in the notes on our website, youngandholt.com. If you enjoy these issues, please consider dispensing a lovely 5-star review on wherever you do listen from. Please search for Fear the Boot Actual Play. It's kindly appreciated. I'm Ernest Wick for the Tombstone Epitaph. And remember, never bet on a sure thing unless you are prepared to lose.
Raised from the dead, dragged up from hell. My legend will spread far and wide now. It is warning, hear it well. The one who does what is sinful is of the devil, because the devil's been sent.